Hello, my name is Audrie Gordon, and I welcome you to the 10th day of the Dataverse Advent Calendar. Today we're going to talk about forms, and in this case we're talking about out-of-the-box forms. We will talk about creating forms for Dataverse in Canvas apps when we get to the days focused on creating Canvas apps. So just be patient. Today we're going to talk about the opportunity for using the out-of-the-box forms. What I think is most awesome about these forms is that they are reusable. You create them once for many apps and solutions. So you don't do it per app. You build your forms and then you reuse them. The other thing that's awesome about forms is that they can be combined together and you can add other things to them, such as components, table columns, tree views, form libraries, business rules. So it's a very rich experience, the forms that are built into Dataverse. And I want to kind of give you kind of like a foundation on them, even though I can't exhaust everything. So one thing I will show you is that there will be a link in the description that points out all of the form types for Dataverse model-driven apps, okay? There's main, quick recreate, quick view, and card. And then on this page that you see in the description, you will also see examples of what these do. We have the main form, and actually what's nice is they put a few GIFs in here so you can kind of see how they work together. Quick create, and then there's a quick view, and there's a card. All right, so basically this is like your overview of what the types are, and you can read up more about them there. That the link will be in the description. Now today we're going to leverage a solution for Northwind traders. And so what's interesting about the Northwind solution is everybody who's ever studied databases, I don't care what database it was, Access, SQL, or whatever, you know about Northwind traders because it is the example data that people use to demonstrate the capabilities of any database. So we actually have that solution prepared for Power Platform, and you can just download it from aka.ms/Northwind solution. And here's a sneak peek, so to speak, of even the Canvas apps. So we have Canvas app, we have model-driven apps built into this solution for you to review and kind of see how everything works. When we get to building apps, you'll see me actually revise this Canvas app just a little bit to take advantage of the Creator Toolkit. So look forward to that. That'll be in the future. I just wanted you to know that this solution has several types of apps and lots of goodness for you to explore. All right. So let's go on into Power Platform. Let's head into Power Apps. And let's look at this together. So I have, if you notice in my solutions, I've gone ahead and imported Northwind traders. This is the one that you should import so that you can play around and kind of look at these things. The wonderful thing about the Northwind traders solution is it contains a bunch of things that you can use also to review things from the previous days that we've done, like tables, connection references, choice lists. So it has quite a bit of things, including 6 apps altogether. A lot of these apps are configuration centric. So in other words, they're for the admin. So when you see begin part 1, begin part 2, begin part 3, this is like what you do first before you start kind of using the apps. You also want to use the Canvas app called Northwind Sample Data. That app will give you all the data you need for the solution. So it'll bring in all that data similar to what you see in any other Northwind database example. All right. So those are things you'll do first. But today we're going to take a peek at the model-driven app inside Northwind and kind of get an idea of what these forms look like. All right, so I'm going to open up Northwind orders, model-driven. And when I say out-of-the-box forms, out-of-the-box views, I'm mostly talking about model-driven for Dataverse. It's built in, right? So it's more of a configuration than a creation type thing. We've already talked about views, but I'm going to open up one of these orders and just show you that this is a form. All right. So, and forms can be configured in many different ways, but there's lots of opportunity here. It's very rich in its capabilities, right? So you have the main form, which is up here at the top, which is configured to have whatever fields you like. Then there's a sub form here, or I would call a subgrid that actually is showing immediately the order details, right? Because usually when you're talking about relational databases, you have your one-to-many scenario. So you have your order, right? But then you have another table called order details. That's a best practice for normalization with databases. So it's something you should always plan to do and to see is these one-to-many relationships. So for each order, which is related to one customer, there is a set of order details, which is in a different table. The customer is in the account table, for instance, right? Then so there's a customer and they have many orders, right? So one customer to many orders, but for each order, there's one order to many items or details, items to that order, all right? And it's very easy for you to combine these things on the view. All right, let's go look at this up close. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the order table. And you won't have this unless you go and you run those admin tools after you install the solution. Then you'll have your order and you'll have all the data in the order. I'm going to go to forms, and you'll notice I'm going to start with the main. So there's 3 here that are built in for you that you can just use. I'm going to start with the main and just hit edit. And here it is loaded on the screen. Notice that this has a few components to it. It has a header up here at the top. I can actually put data in the header. Like let's say, let's add data in the header. I'm going to add, I don't think there's any data in status. So let's add the city. It doesn't matter, but just to show you that you can also use your header area on forms. And I'm adding it so you can see how to edit it. All right. And then the other thing that's down here is this subgrid that represents the order details. And you can see this is an order details subgrid. And you might be wondering, how did you add that? Because that's from a different table. Well, basically, I'm going to click away so nothing is highlighted because I don't want to delete what I have and I don't want to edit what I have. So I'll make sure nothing's highlighted, and I'll click on the components right up here at the top. And here's where I can add sections, 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, 4 column sections. I can add tabs here if I'd like to. But what I'm going to add is the subgrid. Now I have a subgrid and an editable grid. I'm going to add a subgrid. And basically when I click on the subgrid, it's going to ask me which table. And so I can go in here and look up orders. No, I'm sorry. I want order details because this is orders. Okay, order details. And then I can pick what's the view that I want to use for those order details. And again, a lot of times when it comes to model driven, you're building these components first before you build your solutions. That way, every time you build a solution, you just leverage the other things. So check out what your views look like maybe first before you do this. And now you can see that I added a subgrid because I had nothing selected. It went into the top section. So this is actually right underneath the main form. There is that subgrid. But if I want to move it to the bottom or move it around, I most definitely can. So I can move it down. I can move this one above that one. And there you go. Now I'm not crazy about this view, but that's really easy to edit. We know what view we picked. So if I click back on here, you see it says default view is active order details. Whatever view I picked, I can go and edit that. All right. So now I've added that to the bottom of this grid. And that's basically how easy this is to do. And notice that the command bar is automatically put there for you. And you can use the properties shown here to give these custom names. Like you notice that my default name is kind of like one of the internal Dataverse unique things. I can change it to order details. And now I'll just zoom in a little bit. Now it says order details instead of what it said before. And I use this little slider here to zoom in and zoom out if you're worried, if you're wondering. And also down there is a way to like center it so it fits in the screen. So you have all of that down here, similar to the Power Apps Studio, so it should be familiar to you. Show hidden means that if I hide a field for some reason, let's say I hide this field, fields can be hidden and formatted in the properties panel when you select them. If I say hide here, you don't see it, right? But because I'm a developer and, well, I'm not a developer, I'm a citizen developer, because I'm developing this form, I'll put it that way, I'm going to say show hidden on. So now I'll see that little icon. Let's see if we can zoom into this little icon here. That means it's not hidden for me, but in the user world, it would be hidden, if that makes sense, okay? But I'm gonna leave it not, I'm gonna turn that off and leave this not hidden for everybody, and then I'm gonna recenter down here, okay? So that's all I need to do. No, I didn't change this form, I just showed you how this part was added, all right? A misconception is that you can't add sections. You most definitely can add sections. So if I go up here to the components area, all the things that I can add here are all listed here. All right, so let's say I want to add a 3-column section. I just click on it and there it is. All right, now what I put into that section is totally up to me. I may want to add charts, I may want to add other things, but then again, that's the idea of the components as well. So let's say I want to add a subgrid that shows all the order details. I know this is redundant in this particular case, but just to show you also how that was done. All right, I can also pick which view I want to show. So let's say I want to show the order grid view, and now I say done. And now I've got that. Now, because I'm in that new section and I chose a 3-column section, the things that I add are going to add into the sections. All right. Now, if I highlight this section and give it a name, let's just call this other information. I'm going to be very creative today. Order information. So there might be the total order, the orders. What else might want to add to this? Let's add another subgrid. Show related records from, we don't have any requests on here, but let's say you had other activities and you wanted to show all the activities for your team. You can add that as a subgrid and that will show up in the second area. Now you will notice that these have these weird names, and you know, that's a Dataverse, that's a database doing its job of keeping things unique, right? So what you can do is just click on these and give them your own name, right? Orders over here. I'll change this to activities. I might even change it to team activities, so you know it's the entire team. Completed it to the extent that you want to save and publish. Now, just to show you a few other things, I find that components are the least known of all the things you can put into a form. So my recommendation to you is you check out all your components because it can add a lot of value to your form. And I find that sections and spacers are especially appreciated. All right. Just to point out a few other things before I leave, on your form, you'll notice that you'll have, just like views, you'll have all the columns that you can add, and you can go ahead and put that into your form. Another thing you can put into your forms, again, looking over here, are web resources that are based on JavaScript, form libraries in JavaScript, and or business rules. And we actually will have a day where we'll be talking about business rules and how they can be very helpful in forms, both in the model-driven form and in the Canvas app. All right, so the last thing I wanted to call out is this right panel, but I think I've done that to a large degree already. Here's where you can change the names of things, where you can decide what your defaults are, how many maximum rows you have in your grids. And so a lot of goodness over here. Check it out before you decide to save and publish. Okay? Oh, there was one thing I wanted to tell you. When I added these two, I added them for the instance of Dataverse. I didn't filter them. So what's important to note is this little setting. So when you add a component that is a list or grid, right? You're going to be asked what table, and we did that together, but let's do order details again. And notice if I click this checkbox, I always forget to tell people about this box, then this grid will be filtered to only the order details related to the order that's open on the form. So I'll go ahead and let that be added on the right here. Just let it be added wherever it wants to go. And I'm going to call it orders. This order. I'll name it this order so you can see the difference when I save and publish. So I'm going to save and publish. And it doesn't have any detail there because this form is not operational. You know, it's not dynamic because it's a designer. But when we open a form, because these dynamic grids are restricted to the order in question, you'll see them light up. All right, so I'll publish. I'll go back to my app. So if we look at what we've changed on the bottom here, you'll see the three areas that we've added. The orders, the team activities, and this order. Okay, so notice that this order only has 2 pages, but the orders in general has 3. So totally up to you how you want to update your forms, but just wanted to let you know you've got lots of options for components. Let me know in the description if you have specific questions about forms. I know there's a lot to assimilate, but let me know if you'd like me to focus on something in a future video. That's all I wanted to cover today for forms in the Dataverse Advent Calendar. Just kind of pointing out key things from the built-in forms. Remember that you build those forms once and then you reuse them across many solutions. You don't do it one app at a time, right? Unless, of course, you have a form that's specific to a single app. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow in day 11 of the Dataverse Advent Calendar. Happy holidays!